Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Here we are for our third day, our fourth big training this week, if you've been with me all week, but our third live stream today. So, welcome to all of you already here in the Zoom room with me, and to those of you watching on YouTube as well. So, welcome. We have a lot to do today. We're also put the link in YouTube over there. If you want to join me in the Zoom room, if you want to be able to ask your questions, we're going to give you the link to do that today inside of the YouTube. So I'll remember to remind the team of that as well. And so we're going to be jumping in and getting started. Today, what we're going to be talking about, and I'm just looking at my own slide here. If I can get to it, there it is. So we're going to talk again about a mix of things. My goal for today is to really have some feedback from you all on what you want to hear about, because I've talked about deep dive into the session. And I've also talked about what does it look like to really think about being a professional coach in a way that means I am starting off with the right goal, the right decision. I'm not just training in modalities or techniques. I am stepping into something that there are, something I like to say a million times, which is I'm solving problems that are common, that are painful, that are expensive, and that are mysterious to people. Because when you do that, you will always be valuable as a coach, and you will be fascinating and riveting. Maybe not to everyone, but to the very people who have the problems that you solve. So I want to talk about, at another level, I want to talk about some of those things. I'm going to add another word, and we're going to talk about that today around the problems that you should solve. And so I'm going to add another word into that mix besides expensive and painful. I'm going to talk about different niches if you want me to talk about how does this brain body, working with people at a brain body level, work in different niches. I'm going to talk to you about the four-step process, but that's getting into the weeds of how we work in a session. And I do have more case studies to share with you today, some case studies that other coaches using these exact sessions have written up to share with you on a real client. You know, the names and details have been changed to protect the innocent, as we say. But I want to share those with you as well, because I want you to get a sense of who you are going to be, not just the you making the offer, and all of the things that you're talking about in those 6 big pillars, but also what does it sound like to really work with someone inside of a session. And so I've got lots and lots of case studies from previous coaches, because I've been teaching these sessions since 2013. And we often have people writing up their case studies so that we can help support them and mentor them. But and we learn more by reading case studies and sharing case studies with each other. And I'm going to talk again about the essential criteria of choosing like what issue you should focus on. But again, that's weeds of inside the session, right? So I'm also open to hearing from you guys. If you're saying, I want to go more deep into the session and see what it's going to be like when someone is sitting across from me on Zoom, or we can also talk about, as I will, what does it mean to start smart and become a thriving coach and skip over so many of the mistakes and the pitfalls that people get into when they step into coaching. So again, we're going to team. I'm hoping we remember that we offered to put the Zoom room link in YouTube. And so if you're watching us in YouTube and you'd rather be here in the Zoom room with all the friendly people that we can see each other and talk to each other more easily, we'll give you the link to that as well. And of course, knowing that this is our last masterclass, we are closing and putting all of this back in the vault, and we are enrolling for our motivation coach. Today is a big deadline to enroll, because there is a bonus that is going away. And it's a really powerful bonus. So I want to talk about that as well. Let's see. So good question. So hello, hello, hello. Michelle said, curious how to apply it to a group, both as a cohort and one that participants come and go. Really good question. Who else has that question about how to use this with a group? Anyone else thinking a little bit bigger that way? Because, if it's just Michelle, I can have her. Okay, some more of you. Okay, good. So when you get into the manual, and you'll be seeing that on Tuesday when I walk you through. Okay, wow, lots of you do. Everything is created with group in mind. So when I script an entire session with all the things that you're saying, all the things that you're explaining, all the connections that you're making, and the tapping, I do that with a group in mind. Why? Because you're going to have varying reactions from people. And so I have to write the session for a group. And when you're doing a group instead of a private session, there is more space to explain things, to set the stage, to say, this is what we're going to do, this is why it's important, or to integrate and say, okay, so look at how much anxiety is coming up for all of you. Do you see why this is important? But the other reason that it's designed for a group is because with a tapping script, we are going to have people in the group with different experiences. So how do we do that if it's a group? Well, there's special ways of doing it. We use the phrases that we hear most commonly from the vast majority of people. So the tapping scripts that are carefully crafted come from me doing thousands of groups and in hearing what people say and knowing that in a group, I can say, as we tap, some of the words are going to fit and some won't. And that's okay. Or some might seem over the top for you, even though that resonates with someone else in the group, and it all works. We're not instilling anything negative. It actually is still good to tap even when something feels over the top. Like, wow, I don't know hate, but I definitely dislike it, for example. But it tends to move more energy. So it's designed for a group process. And then it can also be used in private sessions. But of course, most coaches, we're going to practice each other private sessions. You're going to often start with clients who are doing private sessions with you. And so it's actually a little different with the private session because you're listening and following more. And so with a private session, you're hearing what they're saying, and then you're looking at the next tapping script. And I still often recommend, you'll hear me talk about this in the training, to even if they only said one or two phrases that you see in the tapping script, I still invite you to use the script as is, and you can check in with people. So a big part of the foundational chapters is explaining this really authentic and forgiving way of explaining tapping to people in process of a session, saying things like, sometimes a word might not resonate, and that's okay. I'm going to check in with you. And so instead of doing tapping in a very prescripted way, we're using short phrases. And then while we're tapping with someone, we might stop and go, while we're still tapping with them, oh, so I just saw, did that phrase resonate with you? I threw out a phrase like, actually, it really hurt. And then you see the person kind of go like this. Oh, did that resonate? Great. And now I'm going to lean in on that. So you have the understanding of the motivation breakthrough map in the back of your mind, but that's how the sessions, the scripted pieces of the tapping are done. And so we check in with people, but the scripts are designed to get the vast majority of people nodding along, going, oh my God, it's like you are reading my mind. So great question on the group. I would love you to do groups. Groups are fantastic. When you look at the pillars, that's why, again, we don't say sessions. The 6 pillars could 100% be, this is the group that I'm offering. These are the 6 pillars. These are the, and in that case, you could do them as 6 group classes. And of course, you're not going to get it all done. And that's what you're going to say. They're going to say in the group, we're going to get as much done as we can. There's always more to do, but this is your aha moment. Like, this is a big one for you, especially if someone in the group is like, wow, this is still a 10 for me. And you're doing private sessions as well as part of the group. It's like, great. In our private calls, we are going to handle that more. We'll go into more of that. So great work. And so I want you to be able to be very calm and unflappable and clear with a group, and know that you're not supposed to get things perfect every time. If it's a private client and they're like, oh, that doesn't resonate as much, great. Change the word. What's the better word? Right in the middle of our tapping, and we keep on going. The other thing about a private session is that sometimes you can see, even though we build in the I don't want to feel that, you can sometimes see if you're tracking this person and really following them when they stop feeling, and you can interrupt the tapping and shift into the and I don't want to feel all that. Oh, did that sound true? And they're like, okay, because it would overwhelm me. And they're like, and I've had people, and these are all in the manual. These are the breakthrough codes for I don't want to feel that, or I just stopped feeling. I remember I had a friend that I worked with who's a big tapper, and I went through all the I don't want to feel that, and she had all of them. I don't want to feel that because what's the point? Nothing's going to change anyway. I don't want to feel that because it's going to overwhelm me. I don't want to feel that because it might bring me to a dark place and I might get too down and too low. And that sounds really scary and dangerous. And finally, I don't want to feel that because I don't have time. I got too much stuff to do. And she was 100% yes on all four of those. She was like, you got me every single one. It's like you're reading my mind. So the exciting part is the group work, and then adding in the private sessions. I love that. It also sets you up to to use some of this material as different ways of a freebie call, so that you could then enroll people. Like, wow, do you see how much work there is to do here? Yeah. So let's see. Great questions. Great. Oh, lots of you want to do groups. I'm so excited. Yeah. Okay, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. She said, I talked about that visualization, that gift of clarity, saying I've done that in the back of a room, in a conference room, or in a networking meeting. And so I've done that when someone has come up to me and said, this isn't the ideal scenario, because if you want if that person might become a client, you're going to want to say, let's have a conversation outside of this meeting. Let's sit down and talk. And I can, we'll have what we call a clarity conversation, right? But I have on occasion said to people, or three people standing around, and said, okay, well, do you want to do a quick process right now just to get a sense? Because what I'm giving them is clarity. It's not a freebie. I'm not tapping with them. I'm not jumping in. I'm giving them some clarity. And you can't do anything without clarity. And so I'll say, do you want to do a quick process? And we can see why you're holding back. And then I've said, close your eyes and imagine there you are at the front of the room where you have to present tomorrow. And for some reason, you're showing up really confident. And you just have this energy of everybody be quiet, look at me. I'm awesome at what I do. And so what just happened? And they go, oh, I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed. I feel anxious. I want to throw up. I want to run out of the room. I see myself standing up there nervous. I see people. And so it just comes forth. And then in just a few minutes, I'll say, okay, so when you imagine doing it, everything in your system is saying anxiety start pumping, people aren't going to like it, this doesn't feel comfortable, I want to run out of the room. Does it make sense why you're probably avoiding it if all of that feels so intense? And there's another piece of some of that original, that very first session, that pillar one session, which is getting people to realize it's not just a simple thing sometimes, because they'll say, well, other people get up there and they present and, why can't I do it? It's making people understand and walking them through the process of seeing that there's actually a lot on the line for them. There's a lot at risk. Their heart is at risk. They don't want to fail. And so if the what if I fail feels really scary, you're not going to have any dopamine. You're not going to have any motivation. You're going to hold back and freeze, which is exactly what's happening. So that's how I've done that, very just quickly in a discussion, with a colleague or somebody that's just asking me if I'm not really engaged. Because for years, since like 2009, I haven't been looking for clients actively. So instead of saying, sure, like let's have a deeper conversation, I'll sometimes use that little process. The other things that I've done with people similarly is to do a quick process when they say, I don't feel blah, 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 and I get this, I'm not sure why I get nervous and I don't feel confident. Or people tell me that, they just don't feel me when I'm up there talking. And I will just ask in powerful questions like, well, what would you guess if you had to really feel into that? What would you guess you might have to feel? And in 2 seconds, their face is turning red and they're feeling it. And they're like, sadness. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a really good reason to be spinning in your head and out of your body. Because if you go in your body and it feels like there's a lot of sadness down there, it probably makes sense that you spin up here more, right? Or if you're really afraid of failing, it makes a lot more sense that you're going to be perfectionistic. So inside the sessions is also a lot of powerful questions, a lot of powerful questioning approaches that you will see, and I'll point some of them out when I walk you through on Tuesday. Karen has sort of a marketing question. Do you have to have a lot of followers or a big list in order to start with groups? I walked into my first business networking meeting with my brand new business cards. And I told people that I was doing law of attraction work because people seemed to know what that was back then in 2006 or 7. And they were like, oh, that's so interesting. And I said, as a matter of fact, I'm starting a group at my house. And people all showed up. I charged $25 at the door and they showed up because I told them I was starting a group. And so I don't recommend worrying about all the websites and going online and all of that thing. I mean, obviously you could offer something on Facebook, but when you leave your house, there are people that you can help with an offer like this. If your niche is success-focused people who really want to achieve a goal-oriented people, and the ones of those that are stuck, and that stuckness is painful and expensive, that's where you can find clients. Thank you. So my team will help you with all those handouts and everything. And we have lots. We have another Kathy Hamilton in our community. Hello, Kathy Hamilton. That name means a lot to us from another Kathy Hamilton. Awesome. Oh, Lisa, she said, great. I'm going to a networking event in an hour and a half. Fantastic. What do I call it today if not law of attraction work? I call it goal-focused work, right? Motivation. I'm a motivation expert. I help people get unstuck, motivated, and back into action. That's what I would call it, right? It's just that at that time, the secret had come out and Jack Canfield was big and all of that stuff, right? Okay, so those are some of the things that we're going to do today. So if you're just jumping on, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Margaret Lynch Ranieri, and we are in our last live stream of this week, the 4th training that we're doing. And today I'm going to again show you the step-by-step action plan, which we call Motivation Coach, which is a framework and a plan to build a solid practice by helping people doing what you love, so that you don't have to struggle. You don't have to follow my terrible journey where I made all of the mistakes. It took me a long time to figure it out. I want you to save all that time, leap ahead, and be able to start with clients who will pay you. And so today, as I was discussing, we're going to do a mix of talking again about what does it mean to be successful as a coach, as well as going down into back the nitty gritty, if you will, of session work. And I'm open to hearing from you all on which things you want to hear more of. But I do have some really exciting or juicy case studies to read to you from coaches who were trying these sessions for the very first time, reading it out of the script book with a client, and hear the real details about how those sessions went line by line, Of course, not using anybody's real names, right? So what I've been talking about this week is how to avoid some of the struggles that come with helping people first and then hoping it works, or leading with our modality and being in that modality myth. And showing you a more infinitely effective approach that has a brain body reset involved, where we're working neuroscience informed. We are talking about dopamine, about cortisol. We're working at a real level with emotions and things that go on underneath. Because that's what the thriving coaches use to actually feel confident and successful and be interesting and compelling and right now when they are out marketing their businesses. And so I appreciate all of the comments. Some of you have been emailing us with questions. Some of you have, shared some of your stories and your struggles, saying this is exactly what happened to me, Margaret. This is exactly where I've been stuck. So I appreciate all of your feedback. I also showed you, as we just talked about on Wednesday, the gift of clarity exercise, a simple, powerful exercise that you can use to give people a result in advance, to show them something, to give them an aha moment, so that you don't have to waste your energy trying to sell or trying to convince. I also showed you yesterday better ways to introduce yourself that will get wows in the room, because it's so clear, but it also focuses in on exactly the problems that you solve without adding in any detail that can make people start to not hear it or glaze over because it's too much. And then only talk about the benefits. So problems and benefits. I show who struggling with problem, problem, problem. And the one I recommend that is painful and expensive and very common is people who really want their goal and they're stuck. And no matter what goal that is. So if you haven't seen those trainings, I recommend you go and watch them, because again, we're putting everything back in the vault. And so today I really want to talk about how do we do it, right? How do we get people who are interested, compelled to work with you, and actually get them to not only commit once, but to keep committing to the process the whole way. And that's another important piece that's built into the sessions, right? And so, for me, the best part is when what was important to me when I started out was not only that I had to have a stable income and replace my corporate income, because I was a single mom for many years, but having a schedule that is more streamlined and that is more predictable, that is easy to manage, because your clients are committed. They want to continue working with you. They want to keep getting the amazing results that you get. And this is why some therapists are moving into coaching as well, because it's a different type of model, and you do have different type of people. You have highly motivated clients. And I've talked to many therapists over the year who've done amazing work with people who really need that kind of care. And sometimes they reach a point where they're like, I'm ready to work with people who are more motivated and success focused. Like, I've put in my time and I'm ready for something different. And of course, it's not going to just magically manifest overnight. This isn't an instant, miracle or anything like that. You do have to make things happen. You do have to be serious. As I said, I'm not going to dumb it down. You do have to dive in and learn. And it's so much easier when you have a framework and a step-by-step approach, because that way you always know what to do next. Again, this is why I script the sessions, because the feeling of being in a session and not knowing what to do next or not knowing what to say will hold people back from doing their best work. And so if you're tired of wondering what people are doing, what you might be missing, that feeling like, I think I'm missing something, which I felt a lot of when I first started, then stay with us today, because we have a lot more to stay. Okay, Michelle, great question. How do you make sure you stay in coaching lane versus therapy? So this is one of the additional benefits of selling, of having your messaging be focused on success-focused people who don't want to waste time, who have a goal that they actually really do want, and that when they're not getting there, when they're freezing, when they're procrastinating, when they're holding back, they find that frustrating. And what I can tell you in doing this 18 years, when you go out and speak the language of success and wanting to be more successful, success and getting stuck, and how frustrating and expensive that is, and how it feels like time wasting. When you speak that language, you tend to get people with a stronger ego sense, we can say in that way, a stronger ego dynamic. But it's not the type of thing that people who are really struggling in therapy, or that you shouldn't be coaching, right? Like someone who's got a personality disorder, or they have emotional regulation disorder, or something that's way out of your lane, or even a lot of complex trauma, they don't tend to be the people who are raising their hand to invest $2,000, $3,000 with you to get to a powerful goal that they really want. And so even the offer itself, the way that you're holding yourself and speaking the language of success, of goals and mindset and confidence and action and procrastination, attracts success-focused people. And it keeps us in that lane. And so there is something magic about that attracts everyday people with everyday problems. And so that's how we say it. That's how they say it in the hypnotherapy world, in the tapping world, in the coaching world, is I help everyday people with everyday problems. This is not therapy. I'm not a therapist. If you are a therapist, maybe that's different. You can add in some coaching sessions. But for coaches, I just find that the clearer you are, and again, the problem with people who are therapy clients coming to you if you're a coach often happens when we're talking about a modality, right? Whether it's a modality that has the word healing in it, like energy healing or Reiki healing, or we're talking about tapping, which can be used for anxiety and PTSD and all of these things. Sometimes that's the problem that will attract someone who is very fragile and wants to just experience that approach or that technique. And so, which is fine, right? If you're an energy healer, a Reiki practitioner, and you work with someone a couple of times, but that's not what we're talking about as being a professional coach, right? And being a professional coach. Coach versus mentor, it's really, there's no textbook definition of each. I always feel that I'm mentoring people, because not only am I leading them through a process and following them through a process, but I'm doing the integration and the mentorship that's built into these sessions. Even when you look at the offer, where I talk about the pillars, the offer that you're going to make to your clients, you're mentoring them. You're explaining to them things that happen that they don't know. So the mentorship, the teaching, the being the explainer in chief really comes in. So let's talk about, I had a bunch of things on my slide here, is that I want to talk about what goes on inside the session, and a little bit more about how we work outside the session as well. So let me look at my notes here. So one of the things that I have touched on a little bit, but I've had some questions, so I want to talk about that, is the fact that many of us come to coaching, right? So I'm going to talk high level about being successful as a coach. And this kind of ties right into Michelle's question and Anna's question, is that we're natural helpers, like we're wired to help people. And so we tend to focus our energy on the way that we help people. And that means using the technique, the modality that you're using. But when we focus on the way that we're going to help people, we kind of set ourselves up to struggle. And I'll explain why, right? And so a typical scenario is like this. Imagine I'm a tapping expert, and you're someone I just met at a networking event, and you ask me what I do, and I tell you all about tapping. And how it works amazingly and how awesome it is. And then awkwardly, I try to convince you that you should try it. And maybe you're a little skeptical, right? So I decide to offer you a free session. Because once you see how awesome it is, right? This is the help first and hope. I'm sure you're going to sign up for more. And sometimes people do out of politeness, but accept the free session. And when I've offered the technique and to try it, you can't really know what to expect in the session because I've explained it as a technique, right? And so we're leading with how I'm going to help you. So when I offer the technique and I say you can try it and I give you a freebie. When the session, it'll always be a little bit confusing. There's going to be a lot of over explaining of what tapping is doing. It's always going to be a little bit confusing on what's happening. And at the end of the session, you as the client trying it is often pretty confused because you're not really sure what was supposed to happen. And so even if you feel good, you feel lighter, you may not feel or connect like that enough has happened because you haven't really known what to expect, that it's enough to like justify paying for it or paying for more or coming again. Right. And so often what people say, like, oh, yeah, this is interesting. And yeah, I'll look at my calendar, I'll call you back. Right. And so when they never do, we as the coach get left wondering. Right. And so when we talk about our technique or the modality, we're really doing someone a disservice. And so instead, if what we're doing is showing them and helping them see the roots of their problems, giving them an opportunity to, instead of jumping in and help, which I always did, I was like, let's start tapping, right? Let's get into the work because I wanted to help them so much. But instead, the gift of clarity process, which is, repeated again and again in different ways, some type of process like that at the beginning of every session that reveals something so that they can have an aha moment about the problem, what's actually going on, like how long it's been there, the root of it, how much it's costing them. And then they can really feel yes or no, is this a big deal for me? Is this a lot? Like, do I need to be all in on fixing this? Right. And so giving these short-term results sets you up for a short-term relationship. By focusing on our techniques first, we get stuck in that model. And I've seen this with, with weight loss coaches and fitness coaches where they give a piece of their, of their process or of their step-by-step, or say, here's a mini 7-day plan so that people can try it. And it doesn't really allow someone to have the awareness, the consciousness, the opportunity to sit there and think, is this something I really want to put my energy in? And you get to hear, is this really a potential client for me? Because what I don't want you to do is to walk around feeling like you're trying to sell things to people, when in the reality, the only time you would make an offer is when someone actually does have the problems that you solve. And they are saying to you, you know what? The more I think about it, yeah, this sucks. I've been living with this for a long time. This is costing me, and I need to be done with this. Like, how much do you charge? I want to sign up. And so, I love having these techniques. I love that people bring lots of techniques. It's important to have one that is proven, like tapping, and it brings measurable change so people can say, yeah, I do feel different than I felt at the beginning. That's why I rely on it so much. It's a big tool. It takes my clients from where they are to where they want to be. It works at a neuroscience, right, informed level, a brain body level. But the secret to being a confident, thriving coach is having a step-by-step process that starts with giving people clarity. And so the process that I want to talk about inside of the sessions, in the flow that we use, that you're going to see over and over and over in these sessions, is a proven system. It's amazing. And I'm going to go through it kind of quickly, right? But it's how every session flows. And so I'm going to walk you through this. And then I'm going to walk you through some of the case studies that we have so that you can hear more about that. So when I think about how do the sessions really work on the inside, if I was forensically taking this part for you, the first step is always what I call uncover and diagnose. And I enjoy using the word diagnose because legally we are not allowed to diagnose anything. But we're uncovering and diagnosing where the problem is. What's the process? Like what's going on underneath? And what you learn in Motivation Coach is you kind of already know, but you don't know what it is for that particular person, right? You don't have the exact thing, but you have a sense of what it's going to be. So that first step is uncover and diagnose. And then after that, right, we start by uncovering an issue and diagnosing all the hidden blocks that are at the root of it. And that's what you saw us doing in that gift of clarity, right? That example we went through. I didn't bring any tapping. We just had lots of aha moments and felt it all. And so in step 2, now this is where we start clearing things out. We're changing the neuroplasticity of the brain because we're changing the story. So what they've revealed to us has a beginning, a middle, and the end, right? I'm standing up there. I'm saying that I deserve this, and people are reacting this way, and that feels terrifying, and I feel awful. That's the story, and that's the neural pathways. My nervous system is saying this is exactly what's going to happen. So after we uncover and diagnose that, now we go into these layers of the onion of using tapping to clear things away one by one, right? So when things are cleared, how do we know that we're done with the work? We go back to uncover. We say, close your eyes again. See yourself there. How does the picture look now? And what I love about it is in doing this for 18 years and realizing, oh, every time they close their eyes and see it after a round of tapping, the picture is different. It's different. They see different things, they experience different things, they feel different things. Sometimes the picture gets worse. They're like, well, now everyone, now I'm really feeling it. Great. Now we're really getting deeper to the roots, right? Or the picture gets more specific. Now it's just my parents standing there saying, you've embarrassed us. So the picture changes and they give you new information. It is fascinating and riveting and compelling. Like people are fascinating underneath. When they start telling you what they see, it's incredible. So we keep going back and forth and peeling the onion. And then we bring tapping again to clear that level. And it's only when it really feels resolved, right? Like I'm looking at the picture now and it looks calmer, it looks more positive, for example. Then there's an opening. There's a moment of opening. Like the neuroplasticity is open. You can almost see like the dendrites in the brain are like, what should we do now? There's new opportunity here. So they're ready to access a more transformed version of themselves. There's this opening. And that's when we move into phase 2, which is unleashing their inner power. So giving them a new possibility, a new reality, helping them paint a picture, not only of themselves looking better, but we can add to that picture. Since it's a metaphor and the unconscious mind and the body system is already giving you a story and a metaphor, now we can positively add to that story, right? So an example of that from the confidence reset is once we have extinguished and dispelled all the fear about being arrogant and people attacking and being not enough and all the self-doubt and all the panic and all the shame, when the person feels solid, we can now make the picture even better. And so there is a process of visualization that we walk people through that is like, now I want you to imagine, for example, that you're standing up there and you're saying, I'm awesome at what I'm doing, but you're also holding this beautiful undefended energy of this. And your client is going to be like mind shattered by this because they've never heard anything like this. It's always been black and white. They've never heard this new perspective, which is you're standing up there and you're saying, I mean, I'm not perfect and I'm still learning things all the time, but I'm really good at this. I'm awesome at this. And then we tell them, we direct them, now imagine that you holding that energy sends a wave through the audience of permission for everyone else to own how awesome they are without having to be perfect. So for example, that's one of the things that we can bring that they'll say, oh my God, now the picture is even, now I feel even more like it feels like this beautiful win-win connected moment. And by the way, it is true that most audiences don't see someone who can be totally confidently owning their power and undefended. Like, I don't need to be perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still make mistakes. And I'm really good at this. And I love talking about it. So there's more things that we do there to help expand that moment. But that's how we bring in, unleash inner power. So we are now bringing more into the system. And that's where to me, the mentorship comes in. It's like, oh, I never thought I could show up and hold that energy. That changes everything, Margaret. So the fourth part, right? So we have uncover and diagnose. And then we have moving back and forth between uncovering and diagnosing and clearing the blocks. Clearing the blocks is with the tapping or maybe other modalities that you're bringing in. So now when things are like ready to shift, we bring in this unleash inner power, this part where we bring more to because why not? Their brain is open. Like, what's my new story? What's possible for me? I've only imagined it going badly. So let me add a story that's going to make me feel excited about this moment. And now I have the opportunity for the client's brain to look at a future moment and go, that's going to be awesome. Dopamine. This is what I mean by neuroscience informed, right? Now, your client might not know all those things are happening, but I want you to. Okay, the last step, the fourth part, every session ends the same way. Inspire and support. And you'll be doing a mix of those depending on how sessions go, but it's scripted in there, like ending the session with inspiration. So for example, you could say, what do you think it would be like? Like, what's possible for you if you showed up that way wherever you spoke? You were able to not feel like I got to be perfect, but instead hold this beautiful energy of course, I'm not perfect and I'm awesome at this. And they're like, that's incredible. It's so freeing. I think it would be inspiring for people. I think people would look at me as a model of someone who's not being pushy and arrogant, but really, yeah, I think I would do more speaking. And so bringing inspiration and offering that support is always how we end sessions. And it's built into the session, but it's a step because sometimes we're just like, we don't know how to end the session. And there may be sessions where inspiration is a little different, right? There might be a session where a client is just like, I just sobbed with you for an hour. I had no idea that was in there. And we would honor the work that they've done, honor that I've often found myself saying, I am so inspired by your courage to do this work with me, because not everybody will go there and do this hard work, right? We'll really look squarely in the eye our fears and work through them. But sometimes inspiration at the end of that type of a session could be like, you know, we're doing this. I know it's a lot and you cried through this session, but this is about you owning your power. This is about you feeling lighter and freer and having your passion back, whatever they've come to you for. That's why we're doing this. And we're going to get there, right? Like this is where we're going, even when we have a hard session like this. And so to me, that four-part process is really where we're allowing people to see, you know, that we're not just sort of jumping in with modalities, we're not just clearing bad things away, we're also helping them bring in new beliefs, new ways of thinking, new pictures in their mind-body system. And that is a piece that allows people to say, this is like, why would I ever stop working with you? Because every time I work with you, I feel freer, I feel lighter, I feel inspired, I feel back on track, I feel amazing. And so I am asking you, yeah, to not dumb it down, to learn a little bit of a deeper level. No, it's all scripted, but this is real work and people feel it, right? They really feel it. And so bringing that to the session, I want to read you right now some really cool stories. And we'll see how many y'all want to do. But these are real case studies. This is a written up case study from coaches who've learned these exact sessions. This one had, you know, I was again reading it right out of the manual with a practice client. So let's see, which one did I want to work with? Okay, so this one is going to sound a lot to you like the gift of clarity, right? So this one is really about that confidence reset. And so her case study goes like this. And of course, all the names are changed. Before we got started in the session, I checked in with her about the week, and she said she had a very good week, right? They had worked on the goals, the outrageous goals session, which is the mindset reset. At first, she looked at her goal cards. She had written all her goals on her cards and had heard her inner critic, but she tapped and said she heard, what she heard in her head out loud for resistance, and until it had no more sting. And then she also told me she had a great sales week at work and had won a bonus for having the highest sales. And she was over the moon excited about it. So I asked her to come up with something that she could do as a celebration for that. Then I asked her to close her eyes and paint the picture in her mind of walking out on a big stage with a sign that had her big goal written on it. I told her that the audience had her family, her relatives, her friends, her ancestors, her peers, her work colleagues. And I asked her to imagine them all sitting there looking at her and her saying loudly, I really want to do this. I can do this. I deserve this. And I asked her to look at the audience and tell me what they were saying and doing and how they looked and how she was feeling, right? So probably sounds familiar from having that gift of clarity script. So as soon as she walked out on that stage, she got very nervous. She looked at the audience. She got more and more anxious. Her stomach was doing jumping jacks, she said. She kind of laughed and said, you and all the other friends in the audience are, and in like her, meaning the coach, are smiling and waving, but my mother is angry and saying, you're too stupid. You could never do that. My father is looking disgusted and saying, I've turned into a capitalist just like my grandfather. And my grandfather is scowling, saying, why do you deserve it? You're just a dreamer. The rest of the audience just sitting there with no reaction. So I told her the reaction of the audience was her unconscious mind painting her the picture of her fears and what her own inner critic says to herself. She said, "Oh, yeah, that sure is the truth. I try to push it aside, but if I pay attention, these are the things I hear in my head." So she had internalized all of those critics. We started tapping. There they are, the audience. And so she's giving some of the tapping script that she used, right? That comes from the scripting, like there they are, and they're telling me this, and I'm feeling this. And so everything is there, tapping and tapping. And then I said, okay, go back to the picture. How does she feel now standing on that stage? And she said, calm, relaxed, and like I deserve to be here. One round of tapping. I told her again that the picture just showed her fears and limiting beliefs and her self-talk when she sets big goals and tries to move forward. And she said, no wonder I've been so stuck. Oh, I love it. It's my favorite phrase, no wonder. No wonder I've been so stuck, and I don't ever seem to be able to follow through with my desires and move forward. I led her through more of the tapping, and we ended the session with her tapping into her brilliance. When I asked her at the end where she was now, she said you could see a picture in her mind of a new version of her old self that was shiny and translucent, but almost unfolding out of her body of her old self. She said she felt empowered and centered and ready to take on the world and let her dreams come true. And then the feedback that this client, Janet, gave as a testimonial to her coach was this. This coaching with Janet was the deepest and most profound personal growth I've ever done, and I've done a lot. It's totally changed the way I feel and react to my money, to my goals. I no longer wake up in the middle of the night in terror. I no longer feel panic when I look at my bank account or pay for something. Mostly, I feel hopeful and calm about everything. And the best part is my sales are up 40% since we did this. Yay! God, I love that. I love that. Okay, so I'm also going to share with you, what do you guys think of that? Isn't it fun to like voyeur in and read hear someone else's session? Okay, one of the other sessions, hold on, I want to find another good one. Because I know there's lots of, I've got about 600 of them here, but there's a couple I wanted to pick out for you. We used to collect lots and lots and lots of testimonials. Okay, let's see. Okay. So when it comes to outrageous goals, one of the things that we have to find out in the mindset is how they're like what the number trigger, and in this case they were doing money, but it could be weight loss, it could be soulmate, right? Is what does my paradigm say about what I'm allowed to do, to be, to have? Right. And so, and of course that's right in the offer, right? It's pillar number 4, right? So in this session, so this is a session from another coach. Let me just see if I have a note here at the bottom of how many. Yeah, she was like her first coaching case study client. So she said, for this session, I asked Sue, the client, to give me an income number that she wanted to be making in 2 to 3 years, the money doing from what she loved, right? The work that allowed her to bring her gifts into the world. She enthusiastically stated she wanted to bring in $150,000 a year. Yet she confided that she didn't really believe she could make that money on her own. And she was okay with working 35 hours a week to accomplish this. I also asked her to give me a number that represented the amount of money she wanted to have in her bank account. And her reply was $30,000. This was a stretch for her. So upon getting the information, I had Sue close her eyes and allow her mind to paint a picture of when she was a child. And when I asked her to connect with how she felt in the picture, she said, I'm not happy, but I'm not unhappy. I'm in between. It's kind of like emotionless. I feel kind of numb. Then I asked her to bring her parents into the picture and imagine that they were discussing the finances and the money and the bills. And so this is where the sessions get in triplicate, because if it was a weight loss client, it would be talking about food and nutrition and body image and things like that, for example. But we're talking about money in this session. She saw her dad and mom sitting at the kitchen table. Dad was doing all the talking, mom was listening. Mom had a way of deferring to whatever he said. He seemed to be very self-assured and charged and confident. Mom is wanting reassurance and security. She's neutral. She's agreeing with everything he's saying, but the worried expression on her face contradicts that agreeing. Her dad talks about the financial freedom. He says he's good at what he does and he doesn't want to have worry about spending money. And she commented that his earning was limited because he was working at a firm and there was limitation on what he could have to earn. I pointed out to her that, like her dad, she limits how much income she thinks she can bring in today. This was a big eye opener for her as she realized how much she had done that in the past. She did believe her father's income was limited, and that felt like a truth. And she could now see how she limited her own thinking was around money. She had brought into this belief and this that certain professions only make certain amounts of money. And so her big aha moment was when I helped her see the glass ceiling around her income and how much that came from her parents' paradigm. I pointed out to her, this one goes on along, but she said, I asked her to connect with her adult child she is today. I asked her how she felt looking at the picture of her parents and herself. And she said, there's something scary about the picture. They're not on the same page. It's not easy to discuss money. There's a lot of tension. And then I asked her to connect with her own body and how she was physically feeling. And she had a tightness in her heart. And it felt like her chest was collapsing, like there was a heavy weight pushing it down. She had a sinking feeling in her stomach. And she said, I'm scared. I just want to feel secure and know that I'm safe and I don't have to worry about money. And so I pointed out to her how her statements and her present everyday worries about money are so closely tied to the same feelings her mother had about money. Again, huge aha moment for her, as she never saw the connection between her, how her mother felt about money, and how she feels about money now. Then she pointed out to me that she brought her parents into the picture. Sue said she had looked emotionless and numb. And it's interesting, she used the exact words when she described her mother in the picture, but she was not aware of that until I pointed it out. She felt that I felt that she could really see the connection between her parents' money paradigm and limits and her own. And if we just kept moving forward without tapping to bring down the emotion she was feeling, she was never going to make the change. So I'm not going to keep going on, but I wanted to just kind of give you a peek right inside what some of these sessions look like. And how it goes when we actually are doing the work and making the connections. So that's a process that you hear there. What in there you heard her another close your eyes, visualize, and see your parents in the picture, see your paradigm. And that's one of the ways that we uncover and diagnose in the mindset reset around goals. And so when we do that, we end up having a process where people are again in the session. They're not just getting helped and healed and tapped on, they're having aha moments all through the process. So one of the other things I wanted to share about that was when we look at clients and the session work that we're going to do, and we'd use this uncover and diagnose some kind of a visualization or a powerful process of questioning, what we also are finding out in there is when I uncover and diagnose, I'm also hearing as a coach, like, what issue is the biggest? Like, what is the most intense? What is the most urgent? What is the most expensive? So what often so many people who've learned tapping or other techniques, or even have a whole approach of coaching, they say to me is, sometimes I don't know what to do next, or I don't know what I would do if it was a 12 session package, Margaret. Wouldn't know how to do that many sessions. And when you start with this uncovering, the question isn't what to do. It's like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Where do I start? Because I'm hearing so many threads to pull. And so the threads, 100%, like the sessions are connected. They are a framework. They're touching on issues that you're seeing in other sessions. But starting with that approach, you're hearing a lot of information. You're getting a lot of places that you're going to have to go, but you're also hearing, like, which one is the most important one for me to start with? Which one is really intense? And when we see, well, I don't want to get into teaching the whole session, but when we see that someone is always limiting themselves, it usually comes from this identification with a parent who was limited. Whereas when we see someone stretch and achieve and then destroy it, boom, boom and bust, stretch and achieve and then sabotage, we always see in their earliest paradigm that they are bent on proving a parent wrong and being nothing like them. And so they're going to outrun their parent, and then they always end up sabotaging because everything they're doing has a battle energy of proving a parent wrong. And so we start to see these common threads that we have to pull. But I also talked about, as we talked about the inside the session, I also wanted to talk in broader terms, right? And so you guys can tell me if we want to stay inside the weeds of the session a little bit more today. But I also wanted to talk about how this relates, because that's the microcosm of inside the session. And then we have session to session. Then we have the part about how we're introducing ourselves, how we're solving problems, and how we're choosing the most strategic problems to start with. And that's where these pieces all connect together. So a lot of training programs that people have come to us that they, because they always tell us all the trainings that they've been to are teaching you something, but they're not connecting it to an expensive, painful, and I'm going to add another word into this mix, urgent, a problem that feels urgent to people. And so, not to pick on law of attraction, right? But doing a vision board, which is a big, a powerful piece of law of attraction, right? Visualizing and having a mental image, that is actually neuroscience informed. But it doesn't, having a vision board isn't what people recognize as an urgent, expensive problem, my lack of vision boarding. And so when we speak to problems that feel urgent to people, that feel frustrating to people, that have people wasting time and beating themselves up, then we're starting with a problem that people will line up to talk to you from. And so obviously for me, here with you, with Motivation Coach, yes, am putting it all in the line for you. That lack of motivation, not taking action, not getting things done, sabotaging our goals is a big universal source of worry, of frustration, of self-criticism, of anxiety in people who are trying to achieve something, especially if it's connected to money and success. And so every time we've had a health coach or a weight loss coach that we've trained in my program since 2013, they've still done weight loss and health coaching. But what they found was when they talked about money and success, They got twice as many clients showing up for those sessions, clearing blocks to achieving big goals when that big goal is I want to double my income. And so when you help people with, as you heard in that last case study, someone who's like, I want to earn $150,000, you are helping them with something that while the problem continues, it gets more expensive, and that makes it urgent. That can also be true for health, right? The longer the problem goes on, it gets more deleterious, more dangerous, more expensive, more costly, literally, right? It's cheaper to stay healthy. And so understanding that the clients that will hire you the fastest are when their problems feel urgent and expensive. And how do you find those clients? You find them by talking about the problems that you solve. You find them by identifying that you work with success-focused, achievement-oriented, professional, awesome people who are trying to do something big, but they keep getting stuck. Those are your best clients. And I had you write something down yesterday or underline it if you'd printed out the thing, which was my client. It was in one of those self-introductions. It was, and the people my best clients, they really don't like wasting time. Those are great clients for you. And part of being a motivation coach is that you don't even have to have expertise in what they're doing, right? You heard Mary Jazz and I both had an example of insurance agents who had to make phone calls. I don't know anything about that field. I don't know anything about it, but I didn't have to because I'm getting to the roots underneath. I'm not, unless I'm an expert, right? I'm not advising on that strategy. Some of you could probably advise on that strategy, right? Maybe you're an expert in sales. But even if you're not, I can help a realtor and a massage therapist and the HVAC guy. And these are all real people that I helped. And the, the real estate attorney and the insurance guy. These are all people with different businesses that I know nothing about that I can help, because if they're getting stuck and they're procrastinating, I know what to do. And what I want you to realize is that success-focused people who are oriented on a goal, they already know what they should be doing, just like all of you do, right? You have a sense of, if I did this, it would be a needle mover, right? And so they know what they're supposed to be doing. And it's the problem is they're not doing it, right? So having a way of accessing the most likely motivated to sign up with you paying clients is something that I just want to remind you again and again and again, because so many times we've had coaches who've taken some trainings that are in, either a technique or healing, and they're like, I've never been a professional. Like, I don't know if I could help somebody like that. And I want you to know that you can, because you know stuff that they don't know, right? You know things that they don't know, and that they don't know how to solve, that they've never been able to solve, right? And so the challenge again is like, how do I introduce myself in a way that's connected to this work instead of figuring that out on my own? And that's why we give it to you, that attracts the right people, because the ones that come up to you the most are the ones who go, oh my God, you spoke my pain. And you spoke it without judgment. You didn't say, I don't know what's wrong with people who get procrastinated. I never get stuck. I just work with successful people who are already successful. You're saying, I work with success-focused people, amazing people, smart people who really want something and are finding themselves off track. And it's frustrating for them. That's who I help get to their goal faster. My clients like to get to goals faster. They've never heard someone talk about being stuck and procrastinate, the thing they're embarrassed about the most, in a way that is clear and compassionate, and that you have the answers, right? That you have the answers. And so for me, it's all connected. It's not a here, go use this modality, then figure out how to explain it to people, or go use this modality or learn this technique, and then you figure out what problem it can solve for people. We want to give you, in order for the students that we train as coaches and in this certificate, we want to make you as successful as possible from day one. And I do think that's the responsibility of me, because I'm created the program and I use this exact same language to get all of my first clients. So I do think it's on the creator of the program to give you the offer and all the ways to introduce yourself. And so what we do in the immersion is we teach it to you step by step by step, one session at a time. And so today is, I had some questions about this, so I wanted to remind you that there is a big bonus that is all about today. So you have to order, you have to jump in, enroll by midnight tonight in order to get one of the bonuses. And let me see if I can find that bonus quickly. Don't mind me as I scroll. The 2-day immersion is February 24 and 25, if you haven't seen that. Tuesday, we are doing our welcome call at 2 p.m. for all of our new coaches. I'm excited to see you. But this is a bonus that I wanted to show you. So, because we've had a lot of questions about this bonus. So inside the immersion, you're practicing and experiencing all of these 6 sessions, right? 3 and 3, 3 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday. So what is this bonus? And so what we find is that when you are, engaged in doing something that is pushing you up and out of your comfort zone and it's intensive, is we wanted to give you an extra piece of support. And we have some of our faculty coaches that are highly trained in chakra by chakra work. And we're putting you in small groups so that you can do small group work with an expert coach just for your inner transformation. And so the first chakra work that you're going to do is about being really grounded and in your body and allowing yourself to be in your most powerful state in a way that is directed more by the chakras, right? Because this is for you, not for your clients. At the second chakra work that they'll be doing with you, that is about accessing more of your fire, your drive, your passion, your lift up off the seat, right? Because it's one thing to be grounded and solid, but to get into action, we need that second chakra fuel for fire. At the third chakra, they're going to work with you on your leadership energy, your confidence in your leadership energy from a different perspective than what is in Motivation Coach, because you already have what's in Motivation Coach, right? So I want this to be a special experience for you. And then in the fourth chakra, they are going to lead you through some really moving and opening self-forgiveness work. Really important work to open your heart more, to feel more undefended. And so that is $1,000 value. They're going to do it because of the small intensive work. And that is a bonus for people enrolling by today. And why do I do that? Because I really want you to push off the fence, get off the fence, and jump in if this is calling you. So I want to give you every reason to jump in. I don't have the dates yet for that because the coaches all have different schedules, and we'll be when we have everybody enrolled, which will be sometime, when the team has it all together, we will be putting you into groups, and that takes us a minute, but you'll have several weeks to get into those sessions to get into those groups. Let's see. Well, we're not training you in the chakra work. That is very different. So this work is really just for you. right? And so you're not getting a deep dive training, but they're going to be leading you through the process. And yes, Lisa, you should have the email on that. Let's see. I'm curious what happens after the immersion. Yeah, everything is done in the immersion. So great question. So with the price that we're offering, we bring you into the immersion. That's where the bulk of the work is done, right? This is not long-term work. So there's pluses and minuses to that. The plus is by March 1, you're a motivation coach. But we also give you this bonus, which is 1 month inside of our Confident Coach community. And that is a community of all sorts of coaches and experts and consultants. It's only $97 a month. And so people love this membership. So what do you get in the Confident Coach membership? What you get there is 3 Mondays a month. They're always at 3 o'clock Eastern time. 3 Mondays in a row is tapping, sometimes with me, sometimes with the other coaches on my team, to clear your blocks, clear your blocks, clear your blocks, get out of your own way. And then 3 Tuesdays a month at 3 are the marketing, the support, the sales conversations. And that's taught by Bethany Long, who runs this business with me. And that's her job, is to help coaches learn how to take what they have, turn it into marketing. I mean, it's all right there and scripted, but sometimes you really need to have someone walk you through it and how to take that offer and have that conversation. So you get that full month of in that membership. So you get the 6 calls there, and of course you can continue. But for the women in the group, the next big event that you're going to go right into is our March virtual event. And so all additional support, all the other pieces that you feel like, I'd love more on sales conversations. I'd love more on how do I make this offer? How do I get in somebody to sit down with me to tell them about this offer? We do all of that at the event. We're also going to be doing lots of clearing of money blocks because women tend to have very specific blocks to money. So the extra support in the program is in the Confident Coach community. And for those of you who are women in the group, it's our women only virtual event. And it's focused on women because we're talking a lot about hormones and menopause and perimenopause and all of the lived experiences we've had as women that affect our money and our motivation and how we feel about our deserving, our confidence, our willingness to show up confidently, how we take action, and how we set goals, right? And what's possible for us. So the way that we have this timed, you've got the immersion under your belt, and a couple weeks later, you are right in this event. And the event is designed as your continuing support, right? In addition to the month in the community. And so if you're a man and you're looking for that extra support, that's in the Confident Coach community. We're always there supporting you. 6 times a month, there's calls for you to jump on. Let's see. So great question. Thank you for that, Carol. And again, you get the manual. I know someone was asking about my lovely spiral wound version. I did have this printed at the UPS store, and I splurged on a cover that was color. And I went to pick it up, and I was like, and they were like, here you go. And I was like, they never even noticed it was me on the cover. I kind of expected them to be like, oh my gosh, that's you. No, that did not happen. But you're going to get it digitally. That way we can get it to you instantly. Gone are the days where we send, try to ship things in planes all over the world. You have it digital. And what's great about digital is you can be on Zoom with your clients and you're reading it right off the screen while you're looking at them on Zoom. And that makes it really nice because back in the day, you would look at them and you'd be going like this, right? And so learning and getting in the habit, we can learn new tricks of having something on screen and managing that while you have a Zoom room open. I know that you can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice. So for the women's event, thank you, Amanda, we start at 11 Eastern. And we go until sometimes 8 o'clock at night. There's different, the days have different schedules to them. It's intense. And you're at home, which is really nice. There's no long travel to get back to your own bed. We always have people in Australia, so no one's allowed to complain on the hours, even in Germany, because there's always somebody in Australia who's like, this whole thing was nighttime for me. People are pretty hardcore at the event. They never want to miss a minute. Yeah. Wow, that price is exorbitant. I went to my UPS store and I think it cost me like $45. But you do not want to do color on the inside. $100 would be quite exorbitant. Yes. So we are enrolling. This is your chance to jump in and get that special bonus that I talked about. Remember that your special price is $1997, right? $1997. Okay, you mentioned the effectiveness or weight loss clients. I'm an intuitive eating counselor, super cool, Carol, and a health coach, and I work with women who have long histories with disordered eating and dieting, who want to stop this cycle. The intentional weight loss conversation is off the table. The intentional weight loss conversation. And I'm not quite sure what that means, but would this system still work for me and my clients? Okay, great. So, oh, Tanya did $28. All right. We have some dueling prices on printing the manual. Oh wait, we don't, it means we don't work on weight loss. I see. Okay. Yeah. And so long histories with disordered eating. So the way that you would use this program, and it's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about today, thank you for reminding me, which is how to use this in your niche if you are already a coach. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to walk you through the offer again, the offer that you would be making, because it's a good way to look at the sessions, right? So let's do this. I am going to share that. Okay. Okay. So if you're working with clients who have, weight loss or disordered eating, right? And so I imagine that you have more specialty in that kind of a field over there. So when you look at these sessions, you're going to look at it through this lens. So of course you're going to be practicing on with people in the program, and you're going to be practicing it like in a straightforward way. They might have a goal that's more about, and I recommend that when you guys practice the outrageous goal, that you're using the income that you want to earn as a coach. Because the reason not to use your income as a goal that you want to earn as a coach is because you're already too afraid to say what the income that you want to earn as a coach is. So I do recommend that for all of you. So, however, what I always say to people is you're going to practice it the way it is. We do give you the scripting, right, for weight loss. But the thing that happens naturally is when you get the session in your bones, even 1 or 2 times, you are going to see, I see what Margaret is doing. And so even before I modified these sessions for you, since 2013, weight loss coaches and fitness coaches and meet your soulmate coaches, law of attraction coaches have been taking my sessions and then modifying it themselves. So for instance, when we look at, like, let's say pillar 3, right? As we continue to work towards our goal, there's moments when people start to fall into old unconscious patterns, family paradigms, or rules about what we're allowed to ask for, how joyful, how happy, how healthy, how wealthy is someone allowed to be. And so in this process, what you would be revealing, as I mentioned in that last case study, the paradigm from the family is, what is the family paradigm and where did some of this come from? Who is that? Who has your client internalized from their childhood into this disordered eating? And if they were to break that paradigm and set this goal and say, I'm going to be a person doing this, this, and this, And then we can also test that goal in the goal setting process, because normally, as soon as we write it down, we start to feel all the resistance. It's going to be really hard. I'm going to be white knuckling it, is something I'd hear all the time in weight loss. I'm going to feel deprived, right? I'm probably going to fail anyway because I've never been able to do it before. And so setting a goal brings out all of that fear, all the story, all the limiting beliefs, right? Same thing with the confidence reset. Um, it is so true in weight loss and healthy eating that people fear the moment of other people pushing back. And so you have them imagine, but how do we find out what that is? Again, a future moment where you are going to stand strong and say, this is what I'm doing now, and I deserve it. And now you're allowing the client to see how do they expect, what does their mind paint the picture of how people are going to push back and say, you can't do it, you're a fraud, what's, you think you're better than us, all of the things that happen often in a family when someone tries to change their behavior, right? This happens in addiction counseling, all of these places, right? When there's still a family paradigm or a friend group that has the old habit. People found out this a lot when they started doing, decreasing drinking and doing dry January and things like that. And you heard a lot of people saying, wow, my friend group really iced me out because I was no longer drinking with them. And I thought we were more friends than that, right? But it turned out if I'm not drinking, I'm not really wanted in that community anymore. And then, of course, the procrastination piece, right, is that it is easy to just get off track. And it's like, so what's something that I know I need to do that I am holding back or avoiding doing? And in weight loss or healthy eating, what often we find there is this unwillingness to take action on my own behalf because I'm not important enough, right? So to do the work, to go to the grocery store, to do the meal prep, to prioritize myself enough. And what's really fun about that procrastination session, and by the way, we're gonna do more partner practice at the 3-day event, ladies. We'll be doing more on that. What's really fun about that procrastination breakthrough session that you will love, if you're working with disordered eating or any kind of weight loss, is that we proactively look and flush out and get the client to admit to, in this very joyful way, their rebellious pattern. The part of them is like, I'm smiling through this session, but I don't want to do it. And it really changes the energy when you encourage and allow someone to be able to say, and even tap in the session saying, the truth is, I don't want to do it. And we actually give them permission to step away from their goals. And they always feel lighter and freer, but we really flush out that rebellious pattern in a way that is often something they could never do their entire life, was to say, no, I don't want to do it. And isn't that kind of what's happening already? Right. So, the weight loss clients that I worked on early on, when I was first a coach, I was like, I'll work with anybody. You can use tapping on everything. Some of the people that struggled the most had this rebellious pattern, and they they would hide and eat, right? So that started in childhood when they would hide and steal things and do things in secrecy. And that rebellious pattern was reinforced a bunch of times. So instead of just assuming that people are in the session going, oh yeah, I feel better, I feel lighter, because they will, like, oh, I could see myself taking the action. We proactively change the session to look for but the truth is, I might say I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do it. And people love it. It's like their favorite part of the session is when you say, let's tap again. I might say I'm going to do it, and then you put your own name in there, Margaret, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do it. And they love the tapping. but it moves all this energy and they feel lighter and freer. And then we bring them back to their goal and their intention. So that's great that you asked that question, because I wanted to talk a little bit about like how does it work in different niches, right? So there is some direction in each of the sessions. It's like ask these questions if it's weight loss, ask these or health, ask these questions if it's find my soulmate, ask these questions if it's business or income. So I try to customize it as much, but my theory of the case is that you are going to know better than me. Once you absorb these sessions and you see how people react to them, you are going to know better than me how to use these sessions, how to modify them to get to fit in with your expertise, right? Your particular expertise. That procrastination is also a good one when there's an action that you're telling them to take, right? And that's where, again, that I don't want to do it becomes really, really important, because they've often had their will broken throughout their life, right? So that's where that passive aggressive comes from, or the way of eating that is secretive, right? Or so I always trust in it's the expert, right? Who will know better than I even could how to adapt this. And we've had some of the premier, like people who've worked on weight loss, they have nursing backgrounds for years, created their own programs, dive in and absolutely love this. Lisa said, I wonder if someone used this method with smokers. I don't know of anybody who's used this one with smokers that I've trained over the years. I do know that it's hard, right? Because most smokers don't actually want to quit. So if you find that rare bird, right, that really is motivated, then, when these sessions, they get into your bones really, really easily. It'll seem like a lot at first. It's a lot of scripting. Once you do them a few times, you'll start to see the magic. You'll start to have that mastery. You'll start to feel ways to shift them and modify them and add in things that you know how to do. You need to trust that you will be able to do that, right? The other example I have with smokers is I remember a client, sometimes she's on these still, a coach that we trained. And her goal, because she had a medical background, was to help people with diabetes. So they were newly diagnosed with diabetes and they needed to change a lot of habits in order to be healthy. And the problem with choosing that as a niche is that it's a really hard niche. The people that are being told by their doctor, you're going down this diabetes path, or you have diabetes and you have to make all of these changes, doesn't guarantee that those people actually really want to change. And so I was like, you got to be honest. That's not someone with this I want this goal like more than anything, and it's making me crazy that I'm not there yet. You have someone who's like, I don't really want to change my ways, but I have to. That's a really hard client to work with. And so I remember saying to her, you're looking for like the 1 in 100 in every group, and I'm sure they're out there, who are like super motivated. They have a reason and they are on it. They're like, I have grandchildren. I want to crush this goal and I want to change my health because this is my goal, right? But it's a hard niche. And so what did she end up doing? She still has that specialty, but she works with success-focused clients because she could find them everywhere. One of the first coaches I trained back in 2013, her daughter had suffered from anorexia as a teen. And so she was really passionate about that. And so then she wanted to niche because that's what everyone told her. And so for her, that niche meant I'm now going to tell people that I'm looking to work with teenage girls with anorexia. And she was not a therapist, she was a coach. And that's a really hard niche, because where do you go to find those people? And a lot of parents have a lot of resistance for a long time around anorexia. It's kind of a common thing. So when you go into a group home where there's teenage girls with anorexia living, there's really no one there to pay your high fees. So what did she end up doing? She ended up donating her time and volunteering in a way that felt good to her in group homes with teenagers with anorexia, and made all of her coaching income from success focused women who wanted to achieve goals. And that was her thriving business, right? So great question. How would you adapt this as a business coach? So when I think about business coaching or executive coaching, you already have a whole process that you know how to do. And so what's the problem? Like, where do your clients struggle and get stuck? Because you probably hear because they sometimes struggle and get stuck. And for most business coaches, they're just like, I don't know, I gave them the next strategy, right? And so one of the first coaches I trained, maybe this was 2014, her name was Virginia. I see a Virginia on the line. And she was a business coach, an executive business coach. And even in that very first session that she did with one of her business coaches clients, she came back to me and said, Margaret, they came in like spinning and overwhelmed, and they weren't getting anything done, and they were in this like this place of, and I would have jumped in and said, here's the process we're going to use, and I would have done all of these different mindset business coaching things. Instead, we started tapping on feeling overwhelmed and frustrated, and it was a completely different session. So she used the pillar one session, which is a perfect session when you're not quite sure. It's like there's overwhelm, there's spinning. And at the end of the session, she had a client who was, first of all, wowed and blown away. Like, we've never done anything like this before. Holy cow, that was different. But what happens in that motivation breakthrough map is when we are spinning, we are not as smart. We are not as clear. We are fuzzy. We are foggy. We are avoidant. And we're not resourceful mentally. We don't have good ideas because we're literally in fight or flight. This is offline, this prefrontal cortex. And so at the end of the session, she had a client who felt clear and grounded and less embarrassed and supported, and started to have ideas. As a matter of fact, especially with the goal session, that's pillar number 4, people will be in the middle of saying it doesn't feel possible, and they'll be like, I just had an amazing idea. And so that resiliency comes back really, really quickly. So Virginia asked, is there any other avenues we can utilize? So we keep you in a Facebook group to support you with the special bonus calls that you're going to be doing with our coaches, all the way up to the 3-day event, right? And so you get to be in a Facebook group for, I don't know, it's somewhere around just about a month between now when you join and our 3-day event. So we keep you in there because you can keep practicing, you can keep connecting, you can practice on each other. So we do give you a little bit of community there, even though this isn't, we're not trying to make this what it isn't, right? This is meant to be a under 2,000, 1997 super desirable offer, because you don't see coach training at this level for that price anywhere, right? I'm sure you haven't. And so we're doing it in this super immersion so that you get it and you practice it and you've got it. Yeah. So we're really just excited to have you guys jump in. If you have a question, you can put on the chat, I'm on the fence because, and I'd love to hear from you of who do you want to help? Who is it that you would want to help with this work? Who are you passionate about helping? And so let me know on the chat. Who are you passionate about helping? Like when you think about living your passion in coaching. Who is it that you want to help? Yep, I was just speaking to that. Yep, on business coaching. That was my example of the other Virginia. Um, okay, Carol. So I get it that you can't make most of the immersion, but the question is for you, if you really want this and it's really calling you, then why would you put it off just because of a scheduling issue, right? Because you're still going to get the manual, you're still going to get the immersion, and you're going to have a full month to catch up, listen to it, and practice with other people in the community. Yes, it's wonderful if you can be there live and be popped in a Zoom room. But honestly, what's the difference? If you can't make it there live, why not still be a motivation coach by March 1, right? And so if it's something that you want, you could put it off, but why would you? Right? Why would you? If you want in, be all in, and then honestly, when we're all in, which is exactly what we're asking of our clients, right? Be all in. Be all in on starting a new chapter, be all in and hitting the reset button. Whatever happened before, right, is over. I'm having a new start. I'm going to work with myself. Be all in, right, on I'm gonna make it work. And sometimes miracles happen. Awesome. Can this be useful if we have no previous modalities to work with? Yes. Great question. More than useful, because not only are you learning how to be a coach, you actually are getting a mastery level training in how to use tapping far beyond somebody who's gone to like a level 1, type of a weekend workshop. And so you're actually getting the modality in one, right? So you don't need to go spend $500 or $600 on a 2-day workshop. You're going to learn this modality and this technique. And you may not realize it, but you're going to learn a lot of hypnotic language and how to use this visualization to get information from the unconscious mind. And we're not hypnotizing people. We're asking them to close their eyes and imagine, but we're taking advantage of a light hypnotic state that people go into when they close their eyes and imagine. So some of the languaging is actually pulled from more powerful language in hypnosis. Yeah. And the positive visualization too. So great question. Nikki, I'm passionate about helping those who truly want to see changes in their life. Awesome. Yeah. Success oriented people. And remember, someone who's, I always give the example of my brother, one of my other engineers in my family, my brother Tim, who would be a terrible, terrible, terrible client. Why? He's incredibly success focused, but he's like one of those unicorns. He just does it. If he wants to put in radiant floor heating in his home, he went on YouTube videos, figured it out, and did it, right? So he doesn't get stuck. He isn't procrastinating. He isn't off track. And so we have this bucket of success focused people with amazing goals, and then a subset of that bucket who really need support, right? Who really need support. Oh, I love that, Sabine. Helping people have a better relationship with their pet. Awesome. Let's see, more handouts. Thank you, Bethany. She's giving you the handouts. You're welcome, Amanda. I am incredibly generous. I almost said jealous. Generous with my time and knowledge because I can't stop. I believe in this stuff so much that I will, try to explain it and explain it and explain it as much as I can, so that you understand what the opportunity is, right? Because I just believe in it so much. Can we use this process on ourselves? Yes. Yes. However, Virginia, remember that you're going to be trading sessions, right? So in the immersion, we give you a short amount of time because we can't go for 17 hours. But you also have a month with your other students in the program to practice longer sessions. So you definitely want to use this work on yourself. You'll have the script book. You can, as soon as you get it and download it, as soon as you click the button, you can try tapping through some of the sessions. Like the first one's a really powerful one because it's just basic, overwhelm, right? So for sure, you can tap on yourself. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions I can answer for you? Because we have been spending like 2 hours together every day, and I'm just very impressed with all of you. Um, let's see. I thought I was addressing my questions to the group. No problem, Lori. No problem. And did I get your question? Yeah, sometimes people accidentally private message me, but that's okay. I see it all. I see it all. Let's see. Yes, use it on yourself. I've been to all the sessions and I cannot find the downloads in the replay link. And so if you just go up, Sane, just a few comments up, Bethany has got the link there for you to the replays and the handouts, right? Okay, so we are going to be wrapping up today. Let's see, is the 1 month community group different than the 6 monthly meeting bonus that normally? Yeah, that is the community, right? And so it's a $97 a month and it's 6 calls every month in that community. It's called the Confident Coach Community, CCC, we call that. So that's exactly what that is. It's a full month inside that program. But I'm also talking about you all having a Facebook community group for a month. That's different, right? So the Confident Coach community is calls per month. This is actually a Facebook community for you guys to connect, right? For you guys to connect. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Again, remember, you have until midnight Eastern time to enroll and get that special bonus. And then I will see you on our welcome call on Tuesday. You can come at 1 p.m. if you want that whole tour inside, which I do recommend you do. And then at 2 p.m. sharp, we're going to kick everybody off. And just the people who are in the program will be there for our official welcome call. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for your awesome attention. And I can't wait to see you and get started inside Motivation Coach and watch you wow people at networking, watch you wow people in your meetings, watch you wow yourself with your income. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you.